When a person has a fixed image of the world around him inside his mind, that person might have a fixed mindset. There is a sense of unwillingness to change when you have such a mindset. A fixed mindset has a set of formed conclusions for everything it sees. It will always stamp its subjective view on everything. Such conclusion can be derived from one interpretation of a personal experience, which does not represent the entire objective reality. We are often so eager to label stuff with our objective views. So having a fixed mindset makes you irrelevant to current changing reality. Since reality undergoes a change constantly, your part of ideas, views, and perceptions will have to change as well. And it makes sense because one day, your old conclusions, your old perspective, your old beliefs, your old ideas will go out of date. So whenever the present changed reality will appear to you, instead of acknowledging it, you will deny it. With such stinky, stagnant thinking process, you will try to spread your ideology to others and polluting other minds. For example, there is a person who went for engineering and after failing multiple times he quit, and then he goes on to say others that engineering is not worth it, which is true to him but not necessarily true for others. What he did here was he took his interpretation of his experience, stamped it to others. That person was attempting to implant his ideology into others who have not even started with engineering. With a stagnant mind, one cannot progress further. How far can a stagnant mind really go? A stagnant mind will keep you chained in your comfort zone, where your growth is stunned. Whereas we know that growth happens beyond the very comfort zone we are in. Another thing to point out is that there is no excitement, no new energy around stagnant mind. People with such mindsets are entangled in their thoughts. And not only that, they constantly seek confirmation of what they know. Just the confirmation. There is also the death of creativity in a stagnant mind, and it is very sad to see someone's creative self is eroding away, where one should spark it and keep watering it until it flourishes into something better. Since a person can get nowhere with a stagnant mind, he will always stay in a small bubble of reality, which he will have imposed on himself, distant from others and distant from the reality itself. So under such circumstances, how can one think beyond the boundaries of his mind, beyond the limits of his mind? With so many predefinitions and conclusions in one's mind, how will it ever grow and be better than its current state? But if a mind has not sensed how far it could go and did not see its potential, does not mean that potential doesn't exist. One more thing to note that a stagnant mind will have a lack of acceptance in it. Since you will only accept the definitions that you have formed for yourself, you will deny other definitions of reality that is being presented to you. That kind of a fixed mindset increases the distance between you and the current reality. And to be frank, a person who is distant from current reality, isn't he a fool? A stagnant mind is a boring mind, just that old, overused pile of beliefs. Where there is beauty in versatility, there is also beauty in differences. People are always attracted to new stuff. There are so many different interests in so many different people. So many stories and perspectives out there. Why won't people be attracted to discover more? We as humans in general are attracted to explorations. Where there is mystery, there is excitement. There is fascination in it. But guess what? None of it is found in a stagnant mind. With that lack of acceptance, there will be a lack of harmony in that person. And harmony is achieved when differences are acknowledged and allowed to coexist as one. I cannot stress enough on avoiding such mindset. And it is a very real thing and happens to be present in our everyday life. We have seen people with such a mindset. They have the tendency to pollute other minds and ours as well. We can identify them by noticing their actions and the way they speak. Beware of such people who have a stagnant mind. Don't be one of them. Let's say if you have a stagnant mind, let me state the benefits of a growth mindset. Unlike the stagnant mind we talked about earlier, constant learning refreshes you and levels up your understanding about everything. Your ideas get updated to better ones every now and then. So if you are transitioning from a stagnant mind, you will surely notice that your views and ideas are fragile. So you will keep changing yourself depending on the information you consume. And one of the most important realization is that your views and opinions are not as important to others. So you won't be sticking to one thing and give it more importance than necessary, because you will be wise enough to understand that you can change. Let's take a hypothetical example for a person who didn't buy Bitcoin at its infancy. So here's the example. The person who despised Bitcoin at its infancy is now regretting because of his arrogance at the start when he first came to know about it. But my question is that, was he wrong to believe that Bitcoin won't make it big? He wasn't entirely wrong though, because at its infancy, the value of Bitcoin was not significant. It is understandable for a person to make such a conclusion because that was the reality back then. But today, that same reality is changed. Things are not the same. His mistake was that he put an absolute conclusion and absolute certainty in his statement without acknowledging the probability that might be possible in the future. And in the end, that little probability of Bitcoin being big and significant is now today's new reality. One might argue that he could have been right at his place, but betting on a single extreme end of a situation is not a wise move. So we don't have to be so absolutely certain about what we currently feel and believe in. We should always acknowledge the ever-present probability of the uncertainty of a situation that can be possible in the future. Your subjective experiences are not the full picture. If one person says he failed at something, does not mean others will fail as well. That person can only advise on what to do and what not to do, but cannot guarantee an absolute outcome, because there is a probability that the same thing can be played out differently for others based on their strengths and weaknesses. So mark this. One's own personal experience does not represent the full picture of a situation. There is always a world beyond your exposure. There are always people worse and better than you at certain things, and there will be always things that you won't ever know. There is also a possibility, a strong possibility, that a contradictory experience exists. So what can a person do to expand beyond his exposure, to look at things differently and glance at other perspectives? This is where reading books, listening to other people through podcasts, and simply exploring different places and topics will give you a vision, a glance at different and newer perspectives that you didn't know earlier, which were beyond your previous exposure and beyond your current reality. By learning so much more, you will also apply some of them. And by applying whatever you have learned effectively, will open up more and more opportunities and possibilities for you to grow. Trying to expand beyond your current boundary of mind and going beyond your exposure of current reality also involves meeting and interacting with new people. Along with reading books and listening to new people through podcasts, meeting with new people and interacting with them and building a strong network could also translate to newer opportunities. After being in the zone of a growth mindset, you will realize that the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know. You will have the humility to accept that your experiences, your definitions are not absolute and are not as same as others' experiences. You will always acknowledge that your views are fragile, and that will make you wiser and more humble while you take decisions. Having a growth mindset also dissolves your ego, because you are feeding your curiosity. You will have a willingness to understand other people. You will get to know them more, and you will also, as a result, learn to put yourself in others' shoes, which will make you see problems in a much different way. You will find acceptance in the world around you. You would appreciate people for who they are. People with growth mindset who always learn and acknowledge that how fragile their views are, there will be a strong sense of inherent respect for everyone you meet, which lays a strong foundation of a good conversation to start. The more you learn and understand about other people, a sense of harmony will keep developing within you. To be frank, there is no point in being stagnant. Staying in comfort zone, living with your old ideas don't really allow you to grow. Just like I mentioned before, there is excitement and energy in knowing more. Exploration is intriguing and refreshing. We can sense that when we play games. There is beauty in versatility, there is beauty in differences. So why do we have to divide ourselves from all these treasures just to stick with something that's old, outdated and rusted? When people come in your radius, let them gain something from you. So when they leave your company, they would realize that they learned something new from you. Here's why I think that books and podcasts are the best medium to explore beyond your current exposure and nourish your growing mindset. Let's think about this. A person who writes his most important learnings of his life and shares it within few pages of a book, which includes his years worth of experience, in a book which you can complete within weeks or a month, how will it not give you a boost in learning and understanding new stuffs and being more aware and knowledgeable? In short, a book offers a vibrant image of an other's mind. Similarly, when you listen to people through podcasts, people who sit down and speak casually, explaining their experiences, will give you a better understanding of how things work as well. As for me, I listen to podcasts while walking, while driving, while simply doing some work, or while simply sitting. Goal is to stay hydrated by consuming knowledge and keep refreshing this mind. In this zone of constantly learning, I get some answers to my questions and more questions to explore further, which makes me more curious and makes me feel intriguing to understand others and the general reality of today. If you haven't read a book and want to start with something, I would suggest to go for Atomic Habits. This is one of the most practical books that I have read, and this book will prove you how much you didn't know about your current self. When it comes to podcasts, I would suggest 3 of them. From the Joe Rogan Experience, the episode with Naval Ravikant, a very surreal conversation, Joe Rogan's podcast with Jordan Peterson, amazing insights, and his conversation with David Goggins. These are some mere suggestions which will make you realize there is more than you know and how much you don't actually know. To sum up, I spoke about stagnant mindset and transitioned to a growth mindset. Hopefully this video will make you more aware on these subjects. And if you want to influence other minds, there are ways in front of you. So go ahead and explore more.